Hey everyone, Dr. Pedram Shojai here with Dr. Sarah Gottfried at the Health Bridge. Hi Sarah.
Hi Pedram.
So today we have a guest that I'm super excited to share because we got to hang out and talk about animals and Kung Fu and how one can embody and be present in their lives. And he's a man's man, and he's just a great guy to hang out with, and I think you guys are gonna really enjoy this. Bo Eason, hello and welcome to the Health Bridge.
Yes, well, thanks for having me. This is great. I remember us having lunch. Where was that? In Connecticut, and we were talking about eating like predators, and here we are.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So man, you are doing some wonderful work. I mean, you were a badass in the NFL, and you got to play with guys like Jerry Rice and a lot of really powerful players. I mean, you are a man of your own right. You've got all those accolades, and the NFL stuff is very interesting to a lot of guys, and so that could be a side conversation later. But the part that really just drew me to you and the stuff that you were talking about, the stuff that just makes it so awesome, is your training that you did in acting and stage presence and what it means to be able to embody and walk around like a predator in the jungle. And so I just thought that that was so refreshing to hear, that I'd love for you to just share that quickly in terms of what it is that you're doing, so that we could just dive in and have some fun with you here.
Yeah, well, when I got done, it's funny you said it, Pedram, because when I got finished with the NFL, to make it that far and to play in that league, you really are in touch with your own nature. I mean, you really have to be, or you just can't survive. I mean, it's almost like being, what I would imagine being in Africa on the Serengeti, and you've got to survive. And when you start limping, those predators smell it, and they know it, and they know who's limping, So when I left that game, I was being wheeled off of the field, and this was the 7th knee surgery that I was about to have. And, we were running out of parts from this body to hold this thing together. And I just remember when I was being wheeled off, I was thinking, man, what am I going to do? What I've been trained to be the best in the world at one thing, and that one thing is running full speed and throwing my head into other bodies. And I was thinking, man, this does not translate well to the civilian world. So I figured, I go, listen, this is all like, how your life passes before you in these milliseconds. I'm on a stretcher, and I'm being wheeled off of the field, and I'm thinking, okay, my next stop, if I continue this way, is prison. Because the one thing I do well, right? The one thing I do well, if I do this outside of this stadium, outside of this green grass, it's illegal.
Big time.
Yeah, right? So what I do best is illegal in the regular world, but you actually get acknowledged and patted on the butt in the NFL to be able to do that kind of stuff. So my next thought to avoid that orange jumpsuit was, hey, I'm moving to New York City, and I'm going to get on a platform, a stage, and I'm going to try to find the expression that feels like TNT inside this body and get it out so that I can avoid prison and I can make a living doing something on a stage. So that's what I did. And once I moved there, I really, surrounded myself with the best coaches that I could find. And I just took all the energy that I had, to be a safety in the NFL, and I took that same kind of discipline, same exact energy, and put it on a stage and put it in writing and put it in movement. And eventually, I got good at it. When your body's filled with this, dynamite, if you can let that baby out, you can get paid a lot of money to do it.
Bo, I love your storytelling. I mean, you tell the richest stories. I am enthralled, like every story I've heard from you. And I want to just point out to everybody who hasn't seen your one-man play that the New York Times said that your play was one of the most powerful plays in the last decade. I mean, you really just hit it out of the ballpark. Oh, I think I used a baseball analogy. We're supposed to stick to the football analogies, but
you scored a touchdown.
I want to ask you, I've heard your story about Al Pacino, and I just feel like you've got such you took that TNT from the football field and you placed that TNT in kind of a new place. And I want to understand that. And can you tell us a story about Al Pacino and how you kind of got started with creating such an extraordinary event with your one-man play in New York?
Yeah, right when I moved to New York, I dove into every class that I could get into. And that was acting class, that was theater class, it was movement, it was voice, it was dance. I mean, it was all these things that were completely, foreign to me as an athlete. And I was about 27, 28 at the time. So, and all the kids in my classes were like 17, 18 years old. So I would go to them and I'd say, listen, who is the best stage performer of our time? Who is that? And this was about 1990, so all these kids were saying, well, that's Al Pacino. And I said, that's cool. Okay, where's he? and they were like, he's Al Pacino. I don't know where he is. He's probably on a movie set somewhere. And I said, no, I need to talk to him, because if he has that mantle and I want that mantle, I'm going to need to talk to him about it so he can tell me what to do. Because I learned early on as a young man and as an aspiring athlete that if you want to be the best at one thing in the world, then you have to go to the best person in the world at that thing. I mean, I learned that early, and because they're the only one who can tell you. They really are. The people who are like second best or mediocre, they'll never tell you. They would never give you any secrets. But the best always tell you exactly what to do. And they don't sugarcoat it either. They don't go, well, if you take my weekend and you'll be a millionaire coming out the other side and you'll be the greatest stage performer of your time. He actually, I met with Al Pacino and I went to his house and we played pool for 3 hours. And he knew why I was there. And I said, listen, all the kids in my class tell me you're the best. I'd like to have that. Can you tell me how to have it? And he goes, yeah, I can tell you, but let me just break it to you like this. It's going to be 15 years if you do exactly what I say. And I said, cool. Okay, good. I work good in those kind of timelines. So he told me exactly what to do. He broke down my next 15 years. And I've always worked well in long timelines like that. And so this was, no exception. I did everything he said, and 15 years passed, and I did it. And I was on stage, on Broadway with a play that I wrote, and I'm the only guy in. And I'm backstage, and I come out, and I was so nervous because the New York critics were in the house, and I'd never done a play, let alone my own play, let alone no other acting partner up there. And I started the play. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, I started to settle in. I go, okay, I can do this. I'm going to survive this moment. And I make eye contact with a guy sitting in about row 5, and he's right on the aisle, and it's Al Pacino. And all he did was this. He has his arms crossed like this, and he just goes like this. that was my favorite review that I ever got right there.
For those of you who are wondering what the heck just happened, go to our YouTube channels and see the video, because that was priceless.
It was an Al Pacino nod of approval.
Oh, it's really good.
It was really good.
So I'm hearing two things here just off the bat. One is emulate greatness, and two is do the work. Right? I mean, you are not afraid of saying 15 years, no problem. I want this, and I will take the steps to get there. What do I do, coach? Right? And I think that that's a character trait that is really missing in our culture, because we're such a instant gratification culture. And you have transcended that, and you're kind of an example of guys that are out there doing it. That spark, that inner roar that got you to do what you did on the football field. It's not easy doing that. And then that fire that you needed to figure out how to break out from within you so that you could express without any kind of impedance in that flow on stage to people. People who are listening to this, who's like, yes, I feel that spark, but I don't know where to go. What kind of sage wisdom do you have for someone who feels trapped inside and needs to connect the inside to the outside to be whole?
Yeah, well, I think this is the part where being in touch with your own nature really comes in handy, because, I just have this theory, and I got a feeling I'm right about it. I'm not even sure it's my theory. It's probably somebody else's that I borrowed. But I just have this feeling that the people going forward for the rest of our lifetimes, the ones that are most in touch are most accepting of their own instincts, their own raw animal instincts, their own nature. I think those are the people who are going to lead. And I think those are the people who are going to have the biggest voice and are going to have the biggest influence on everyone else. And I think the people furthest or unaccepting of their own nature, I think they're in trouble. And right now, I feel like they've got the microphones for right now. Like, I think the people furthest from their nature, they kind of have still hanging on to that microphone, whether it's media or Washington, D.C. or Hollywood, or the education system even. They're still trying to hang on, and their last little gasp of voice is trying to say, no, it's bad to have human nature. No, it's bad who we are. Let's be nice. And I think that's running out of steam. You remember that old commercial when it was for Chiffon margarine, and I remember it as a kid. And it was this, they were messing with Mother Nature, and Mother Nature was sitting there in the forest, and they were trying to fool her that it was butter, and it was margarine. And she tasted it, and they go, she goes, Mother Nature goes, this is real butter. And they go, no, Mother Nature, we fooled even you. It's margarine. And then she hits him with a lightning bolt, and she says, you can't fool with Mother Nature. And I always think of that commercial today. Like, you can't win that battle if you're going to go up against your own nature and not accept it. I think you're going to be in trouble. I think you can't win that battle. It's just like, say us three decided to build a house right on the beach in Malibu, which is a good idea. We might want to think about that. So say we do it, and it's
I'm in.
Yeah, right. And it's right on the coast, and we got the beautiful, and the waves, and it's right there. That's going to be nice for a while, but we're going to lose that battle eventually, right? Because Mother Nature is just going to keep coming, right? Those waves are going to keep coming. And we're going to keep fixing up the house, and every time a window breaks, we're going to fix it. And then when a big wave hits and floods it, we're going to fix that. But eventually she's going to win. And there's only one way to command Mother Nature. You got to obey her. And I think if you can just accept who you are, like naturally, your natural disposition, your natural ethos, I'm telling you, I got a feeling we're going to be the ones that get to lead. Because if there's one thing about people who are true to their nature and animals that are true to their nature, you can't look away from them. You don't have the ability to look away, because you sense something is alive and dangerous and efficient and lethal all at the same time, and noble and trustworthy. That's who we are, yet we keep going away from that, and then we don't know who we are. We're like, well, am I supposed to be a man, or am I supposed to be not so manly? How are we evolving? What am I supposed to teach my kids? Am I supposed to teach them to be nice, or am I supposed to teach them to be effective?
Oh, this is so good, Bo, and it's I'm curious about this process of like really connecting to your inner nature, this ethos that you're talking about, and what it's like for men versus women. I know you get asked this question a lot, but my husband, who played football for many years, not in the NFL, but he's a big fan of yours. He has said to me since I first met him that he can't be domesticated. Like it's and I'm sure you understand this, but can you talk a little bit about what this process is like for men versus women to really unearth that nature that you're talking about?
Yeah, I often have these conversations with the groups that I work with, and I always say, okay, ladies, how's it going for you men-wise out there? How is any complaints about men? And they're all like, yeah, we're all the men. We're all the men. and they're, they complain about that. And I go, okay, so you tell me what the first time you fell in love, or the person that you married, you tell me what hit you, what struck you. And they always say, every lady in the audience goes, strength, leadership, power, magnetism, danger, confidence. They're saying all these words. And then I say to them, oh, okay, so once you got him, then what'd you do with him? And they all go, oh, well, I had him pick up his underwear. And, I had him iron some clothes, and take out the trash. And
put the toilet seat down.
That's right. And so, and I'm going, so you domesticated a wild beast, okay? Now you wish the wild beast was back, but you'd love somebody to fold the laundry. And same thing with men. I go, okay, guys, what is it about gals? What attracts you? And I always say, look, you and I could be having a conversation, a deep, dark conversation about one of us having cancer and is about to die. And we're having this deep, dark conversation, and we're talking like this, and a woman walks by, and we're having, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to die. That's too... And you look at the woman pass by and you go, let's hold that cancer conversation. And you cannot look away. What is that? But yet, we're not supposed to look, So I find myself like, my animal instincts go, damn, And then I go, oh, I'm not supposed to do that. So I'm just trying to figure out this world that we're in. And I think that cross-pollination, that we're trying to evolve and we're trying to be something we're not. I think that's why we got a lot of problems as far as people crossing boundaries, sexual issues, health issues, unable to communicate because we can't be, we're trying to fit into some box that doesn't really exist and it's not our nature. So of course, we're going to get hit by a lightning bolt somewhere. I mean, we're going to get it's going to come out. That communication is going to come out in some weird way if we don't accept it.
I think that your point is just so powerful on a meta macro level as well. Because men aren't men and women aren't women, and none of us take a stand for anything. And therefore, corporations do what they will and poison our food. And just, it's like no one, like this entire country was built on an enlightened citizenry. And now everyone's just so wishy-washy that we don't even stand for things that we believe in anymore because we're too busy being distracted and trying to be politically correct or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I just think it's such an empowering thing to hear that because you're actually publicly giving people permission to be themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how that's how I was trained. Once I got to the theater, once I got to the stage and was about to do my one-man show, Larry Moss, the director, who's amazing work ethic on this guy, just like that's why we connected. He has this. I just never seen a guy work that hard, and he's a theater director and an acting coach, and he brings in a guy. He goes, "I'm going to bring a guy in," and his name is Jean-Louis Rodrigue, and he's the greatest movement coach in the world. And I was like, movement coach? I'm an athlete. I don't need a movement coach. I know how to move.
I can walk.
Right? And he brings this guy in, Jean-Louis Rodrigue, and we have been working together for probably 15, 16 years now. And this guy has spent his whole life dedicated to the movement of predators, not only predator cats, but great white sharks, killer whales, and human beings, which are the ultimate predator. And he's just fascinated by them, and he goes and studies them, and he goes to Africa and lives with tribes, and he sees the way the tribes move because these tribes have to survive among the beasts. So they have to be the beasts themselves. They have to accept their own predatory nature. Otherwise, they'll be eaten. And the ones who don't accept that they're predators, they walk around like we walk around in Starbucks, like, oh, I think I'll just walk over here and I'll reduce myself to almost nothing. And when they do that, the tigers and the lions, they sense it. Those predators sense it, and bam, they eat them. They kill them just like that. So they can never drop their guard. Now, I just think if you're on stage or you're a leader or you're running a company, you can't drop your guard either. You have to have your predator instincts up and your tail wagging and your ears perked. Otherwise, you're going to give your audience an opportunity to look away. And I don't want them ever to look away. And that's really the only promise of the people that I work with is, look, if you apply what I tell you to do, or better yet, you just do what I do, then people won't have the ability to look away from you. And, you know, just imagine for a second, you know, what that's like for you, what that's like in your home life, what that's like with your kids, what that's like in the business world. If people can't look away, that is a huge, huge feather in your cap. You can lead those people now because they don't have the ability to like dismiss you. But, you know, walk down the street of any city and you can dismiss everyone you walk by. In fact, you do dismiss them. You walk by and you go, and then somebody like once a month walks by and you go, dang, what's going on there? And that's somebody who's not apologizing for their physicality and not apologizing for their, you know, the power of their humanity.
This is good stuff, Bo. And I have to say, I feel like sexuality is a big part of being connected to this inner beast, you know, whether you're male or female. And so I want to ask you about it. I want to ask, you know, with respect, but, you know, it's part of what I hear, not in a, you know, I want to do everybody, but more of a, you know, knowing how to manage and kind of skillfully use your sexuality so that you're able to, you know, accomplish your mission. Can you talk a bit about sexuality as it connects to these points you're making? Yeah,
it's a great question, and it's often, you know, if your husband was at an event that I was just at, so I'm on stage for 4 days, and eventually the sexual stuff comes out. I mean, it comes out because people start asking, and I start talking about it. Because look, I mean, think about it. Again, if you go back to nature, you think about the movement of a woman. I always tell the ladies that I work with when they're on stage, I go, look, don't stand behind a podium and don't stand in one place, because there's something irresistible about a woman who can move. Think about like the alpha dog in a wolf pack, you know, breeds and mates for a lifetime with the most exquisite female wolf, she-wolf, right? Because they have to protect the bloodlines. So the greatest, strongest alpha dog is not going to take the mutt. It won't do it because the bloodlines will then weaken, and then they'll have a weak pack where they can't have that. Well, think about us. The most exquisite woman moving, totally accepting of her sexuality. That's irresistible. And it's so rare. It's almost, especially when you get a woman on stage. You know, you see politicians do this all the time, but you see female speakers get up. The first thing they do is they put their hands over on top of their sex, and they go, "Don't look here. I'm not leading with this. I'm hiding this." And that is the most powerful piece of machinery on the planet, is it not? Right?
Yes.
Right? So the first thing you're going to do is take the most powerful thing God ever created and cover it. That just seems like a crime to me. And, you know, and then it's this, and it's this, and then the legs cross on stage, and they're so tight together like this that no air could possibly be between them. And you see it over and over and over again. And I often ask, I go, why don't do that? I go, let your hands drop and let us look at you. Let us experience you. And they'll go, well, I don't want to be too sexy. And I'm like, yeah, I want you to be. You know, it's just so, there's nothing more attractive than someone who's cool with their sexuality. Now, I'm not talking about like gay or not gay or straight. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about totally unapologetic about your own sexuality. I think that's the reason we have a lot of problems in the sexual world, because your boundaries are getting crossed because you can't express the things you want to express. And when you're on stage, I don't care if you're a guy or a gal, there is an aspect of seduction happening all the time. And it should be happening. That it's a seductive thing to be in front of an audience. Look, what is more intoxicating in the world than the co-creation of a thing between two people? like a baby, for example. Well, speaking on stage is no different. It's a co-creation in real time between real people, and the transformation the story that you co-create together. You're bringing something to life that did not live the second before you said it. That is attractive. That makes you fall in love with people. It is also makes you want them, makes you go, oh my God, oh, why am I in love with them? Why am I thinking about them? Well, that's completely natural, and that's what I want, and that's what we get. You get that from the people that I train, because we're not gonna walk around and apologize for who we are. This is who we are. I'm not going to cross any boundaries, because I'm going to be straight up about who I am. You know, I'm going to be noble about my sexuality. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm all weird and I got to have sex with everybody in the damn room. That's not what it's about. It's about still you have to seduce to get them to follow, to lead people. And then for you to follow them too, same thing, just like a dance. You know, just like a perfect dance like Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. When one's weak, the other one leads, and it's all beautiful and it's all sexual. I mean, that's what dance is the same thing. Theater, movies, you know, speaking. If you don't have that, then you're not going to have an audience that you want. You're just not.
You know, it seems that, especially in American culture, I know this is a podcast and it's all over the universe here, but in American culture, the Puritans really did us a disservice by repressing sexuality and really, in my opinion, having a misread on Scripture and what it's all about. And it's like none of us have permission to be authentically sexual. And when you see that, all of a sudden it's like, well, what is she? Does she want to sleep with me? And all these weird misreads of body language, because we have no forum to even talk about authentic sexuality and just have it be out there and pure as what it is. So I really love what you're saying, because you're allowing people to let life express through them. And what I'm hearing is you gravitate towards life. You could see it. You could see the expression of life, and life moves through sexuality and sensuality and intentional movement. So that's really powerful. You know, there's so many places we can go with that.
And we always, often that's the first thing we leave off of the stage or off the camera even, you know, like today we could leave that, over here on the sidelines over there and not bring it on camera, but you're doing, humans a huge disservice if you do that. Because now you're trying to be something, or you're trying to hide something that you naturally are. And that's a problem. Whenever you got this armor up about, don't look here, oh, don't look here, don't look here, that's a problem. Because now your whole premise has started from a faulty premise. You've started the speech, you've started the podcast in this case, from a faulty premise. You're not being completely there. So people won't even know that this has happened to them, but they'll just turn it off. They'll just stop paying attention, because you do not have to pay attention to people that don't bring it all. You just don't. You can dismiss them. If someone apologizes for their sexuality, you go, oh, they got a problem with their sexuality. Not going to date them. Not attracted to them.
This is so good. Pedram, I'm going to start being more of a beast on our podcast. I just want to let you know right now.
Claws and all. Yeah, that's it. And that's the thing, right? Harvard trained medical doctor, behave, right? And so she's really good at being an authentic, sensual, sexual person, and she only goes home with David, right? And that's the whole point. Right? That's the whole point, is you're allowed to be who you are without being promiscuous, but it's who you are. And so, rock that, sister.
Yeah, you're doing a good job there. Very good. And what you said, Pedram, is really accurate too. When people are unapologetic about their sensuality and sexuality and desires, they always go home with the same person. It's funny, right? Like you'd think it'd be the opposite, but it's not true. Once you have the permission to express, then you're loyal. You know, the only reason you'd be is it disloyal? Is that a word?
Sure.
Disloyal?
It is now.
It is now?
Yeah.
The only reason you do that is if you couldn't express it in some way. So that's always the people that you see. Oh, I had to go take care of business over here because I wasn't expressing it over here.
And it built up a charge until I had to do something unethical about it.
That's right.
My wife and I play this game all the time. I transformed that a long time ago. I just, as soon as something hot walks by, I'm like, damn, look at her.
Yeah.
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
And she'll either agree or disagree, but that's it. It's not infidelity. It's the acknowledgement of beauty.
Right. Right. No, yeah. Oh, I know. I love those scenes where, you're with your wife or you're with your loved one and somebody else walks by, man or woman. And you just look because they're alive and they're present and they're like the most like magnificent thing ever put together. That's what we are. And once somebody accepts it and you watch them walk by, you're like, damn. That's why I always look at occupations. Think of the occupations that when you watch them, you never look away from them. There's not that many, but think of them like I always think of Mikhail Baryshnikov.
Yeah.
And I think of elite athletes like Michael Jordan, somebody who just elite, Usain Bolt. And then you think of like Navy SEALs. If you could see them work, we don't really get to see them work much, but if you could, you're just not looking away from them. They're so present. They're so who they are. They're so doing a job instead of being self-conscious and wondering if they're nice or not, or accepted or not. I love those kind of occupations. So I think that is our birthright to actually be just like them, to have a job that's life and death just like theirs. I don't see why we have to have a different code. People go, well, Bo, the stuff you do isn't brain surgery. And I go, really? I'll put my training up against any brain surgeon. That's just not true. My training and your training is probably more than a brain surgeon. So don't make light of my job. I play at the highest of high levels, and so do you guys. And that's why people watch, and that's why people tune in. Otherwise, you'd be dismissible. You'd be like, that's predictable. I know I'm going to get there. And animals are just not predictable.
This is so good. I love your brain surgery, Bo. It totally works for me. And I don't want this podcast to end, but I know you've got, some amazing stuff to do in the world. It's hard for me to even recap some of the things that we talked about today because it just feels like it's reducing that animalistic drive that I love so much. But I'll say a couple of things. I love how you started out about, number one, emulating greatness. And you gave us that amazing story of, being pulled off the NFL field in a stretcher and this arc to meeting with Al Pacino and doing your one-man show, which was such a gigantic hit in New York. Number two was about do the work. Al Pacino said to you, dude, I got this 15-year plan. And you're like, I'm in. That works for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's so powerful. Pedram kind of talked about how we've got this instant gratification culture where we expect things so fast. And it's the 15-year plan that really is the plan of transformation and change. Yeah. And then third, I really love, Pedram asked you about people who feel the spark, but they feel stymied in some way. They can't put it into action. And you talked about this natural drive, kind of this inner beast that we all have, and how the problems come from not connecting to it, not owning it, not, letting it express the way that it needs to be expressed. So I hope I did a decent job describing some of these amazing points. Can you give us some final thoughts on, what people can do after listening to our podcast today, and also how they can connect with you?
Yeah, there's one thing that when you did the recap that I kept coming back to me, and that was environment. Your environment is so key. And, anybody who has any kind of success knows this. I once heard somebody say that you must be willing to destroy everything in your life that is not excellent. And once you do that, it's scary, right? Because you're thinking about relation. you know, that you kind of got one foot in and one foot out, and it's you know, it's civil, but it's not helping you be the best. It's not helping your birthright come into existence. It's actually hurting it. So you must be willing to get rid of that relationship, that distraction, that food, whatever it is, you know. You've got to be willing to get rid of them, and you've got to surround yourself. My dad always told me this. You got to surround yourself with people who see greatness in you. And anybody who doesn't, you get rid of them. It's kind of wild, right? Like, imagine a life like that where everyone just looked at you and go, so what do you want to do? What's your dream? And you go, well, I want to be an NBA player and I want to be an astronaut. And what would everybody say to that? Everyone would go,
come on.
Can't do it. Impossible. Can't do it. But your job is actually to go to battle against those limitations. Our job now is to go against the battle, or go against those people, the way they think, the way our society kind of thinks. And they think that you're the one who's crazy, right? But maybe, but you just have no limitations. And if you don't have the proper environment, it is an impossibility for you to reach your greatness. And when you were recapping, I just kept thinking of my environment and how it keeps getting smaller and leaner and leaner and leaner. Instead of, like, people go, well, you're successful, Bo, so you must have this big posse and you must have a big team, and actually the team gets smaller each day, right?
You distill.
Yeah. So imagine this. Do we send 300,000 troops into a country if we want to assassinate somebody? Or do we send 4 guys? We send 4 guys. Right. But they're the highest trained. They're an elite fighting force. If this job's got to be done, we don't send in 300,000 people. We send in 1. We send in 2, 4. That's how I build my team. I start eliminating and just keep building it so that you can achieve the greatness that you were born in this life to achieve. And anybody who sees that you can't do that, you must extricate them. You must get rid of them. And that, I really want everybody to, like, take a harsh look at your life. And I'm talking about people, I'm talking about TV, distractions, medication, whatever it is that throws you off. Whatever it is that keeps you from achieving this great thing, this reason that you're put on the face of this earth. Whatever distracts you from that must be destroyed.
Amen, brother.
That's a pretty cool life, right? Your life becomes very fun when that happens. Because all of a sudden you look around and you're surrounded by people, and not a lot of people, a lot of it's lonely. You're surrounded by people you respect and that are your heroes, that are your idols, and they're around you. That's a cool life.
Here's to living a cool life. Ladies and gentlemen, Bo Eason, what a great, great message and energy you carry. What's your website? How can people find you, man?
BoEason.com is my website. Last name's Eason, E-A-S-O-N. First name's Bo, B-O. You can go there and find, all the things I do. I do events, a couple events a year where I bring people in and train them on their personal story. And I actually bring in Jean-Louis Rodrigue, the guy I was telling you about. He comes in on one of the 3 days and he puts his hands on everybody and gives them a predator, gets them lined up with the predator that they are. Now he just worked with Leonardo DiCaprio, and the predator that they found for him was a falcon. A falcon of all things. Because if you notice Leonardo, because he came from a boy to a man, he's making that transition, his feet weren't connected to the ground. So like most, adolescent boys, your feet just are kind of wavy like this. Well, he wasn't being accepted as a leading man. So what they did was with this falcon was they had these long talons, and they had his feet stick way down in the ground like a falcon does to its prey. And once Leo was able to find that depth of those talons in the earth, then his feet gave him this power, and then he moved with a different sensibility instead of being like a kid. he was connected to the earth like a falcon, and then his head moved. If you notice his movies, you look at what he's doing now. Like he's like, and you got to deal with this guy now. Where you used to think, oh, when this DiCaprio kid becomes a man, we're probably going to dismiss him. His career is probably going to be over. And he saved it because he was very smart. He said, I'm going to get connected to the earth. I'm going to make this transition from boyhood to manhood by sinking my talons into the ground. And Jean-Louis is the one who did that. So that's a great example of what I do in my events. And then you walk out of there with, you know, armed with your story and the physicality to tell that sucker.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Bo Eason, thank you so much for your time and sharing your energy. This was awesome, and look forward to hanging with you any chance we get.
Yeah,
That's
that'll
right.
be fun. Yeah.
Thank you, Bo. I just want to add that my husband is coming to your next event. He's going to connect to his predator. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah.
BoEason.com.
That's so cool, Sarah. You know what? I always hear from the spouses. They go, like a man will come back to his wife, and the wife goes, can you go back and see that Bo guy again?
I have to say, after he went to your event recently, it was like a couple weekends ago, we had a really good weekend. We had some good times. Thank you, Bo Eason.
I'm having a visual of that now. Okay, good. I can't wait to meet him. And send me a thank you, some roses maybe.
Yeah.
Totally show up with chocolate. All right, guys, we got to sign off. Bo Eason, the man. We'll talk to you hopefully soon. This has been the Health Bridge. And by the way, we have finally decided to go there. Facebook.com/thehealthbridge. We want show suggestions and feedback and comments over there, because that way we have a central hub where we can help kind of work with you guys and help bring you what it is you're asking for and what you need. So let us know what you thought of Bo, and we will keep it coming your way. BoEason.com. This is Dr. Pedram Shojai with Dr. Sarah Gottfried of the Health Bridge. We'll see you next time.